Betty is in Michigan with our question. She says, our mortgage is our only debt we have. On paper, in quotes, we currently have 19 years left to pay off the mortgage, but this does not reflect the extra we have paid. We recently checked into refinancing to get lower payments so we could throw more money at the principal. That's not necessary. However, it did not make much of a difference to do that, so we chose not to. Have you ever heard of recasting a mortgage with the bank? In my initial investigation, it looks convoluted, confusing, and does not appear to have much of a positive effect on the investor. Listen, mortgages are calculated as simple interest. And so if you had, here's a simple way of looking at it. Your monthly interest rate is when it's compounded. And so if you have a 6% mortgage, that's 0.5 or 0.5% a month. 6% a year, APR, annual percentage rate. And so whatever your outstanding balance that month is, if you have a 6% mortgage, is charged a 0.5% on that. Regardless of when you paid extra, whether it was a 30, whether it was a 15, whether next month you pay extra, whether last month you paid extra. If you have a traditional conforming VA, FHA, Fannie Mae conventional mortgage, that's how it's calculated. Now, if you got a rip-off mortgage of some kind with a prepayment penalty, high interest rate, some kind of subprime crap, then that's a whole different ballgame. But a typical regular mortgage, recasting says, I'm going to take my 10-year or my 19-year remaining balance, and we're going to have them recast it, reset the mortgage like it's a 20-year. All that does is lower your payments because you're going to be in debt longer, but the interest charged will be exactly the same, except for that last year because you stayed in debt longer. It's that simple. The more you pay on principal the next month, the more goes to principal. Because every time you pay it down, if you pay it down $10,000, if you pay it down $1,000, your principal, there's that much less that's charged a 0.5% the next month. So if you had a $100,000 mortgage and you paid an extra $1,000, or you paid $1,000 in principal, the next month, the 0.5% is charged on $99,000. Regardless of how you did that principal, as long as it was applied to principal. You just don't want to prepay interest. Well, I paid my payments 4 months in advance. Don't do that. Prepay principal. And as long as you're doing that, recasting is not necessary. On paper is not necessary. And, you know, if you really want to kind of get real nerdy and nitsy about it, if you look at your principal balance on your amortization schedule, you know, the little schedule that prints off, we used to print them off 100 years ago. They were on green bar computer paper, right, back in the day. And they would have a column that is your principal and interest payment. Then the next column is how much of it is interest. The next column is how much of it is principal. And the next column is the reducing principal balance of the mortgage every month. And so if it says $100,000 on your principal this month and you paid $1,000, which was some extra principal, then you would just slide your finger down until you find $99,000. And that might be 3 months from now, 4 months from now, that it would have been had you paid your regular payment. And so if you really want to go be nerdy about it, that's a way you can do it. Or you can sit and recalculate it. You can set up a little spreadsheet to do it. It's really not that much because it's simple interest. Is the interest is calculated that month, if it's compounded monthly, on the outstanding balance, on the monthly rate of interest. And so that's all it is. It's a math formula, and it's not, you know, I paid all the interest. No, you didn't pay all the interest. Well, the first 5 years of this mortgage was all interest. That's because your payment consisted mainly of interest, but you weren't prepaying interest. The interest charged in those first 5 years was the exact amount due that month. And the rest of it in your payment was the exact amount to the principal in order to fully amortize or fully pay it off during the payment term of 30 years or 15 years or whatever it is. So you do not have to recast a mortgage to pay it off early. You have not wasted it if you refinance it because you paid all the interest on the front end. You did not pay all the interest on the front end. You paid the interest that was due. That was all you paid, ever, unless you have a rip-off type mortgage.